Welcome to Refinery Injury Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Refinery Injury Podcast with Brooks Harrison. Brooks is a Texas trial attorney dedicated to representing refinery and plant workers who suffer catastrophic injuries in explosions, fires, and chemical accidents across the South. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're breaking down why most refinery injuries fall outside the usual workers' comp system and what that really means for injured contractors and their families. Brooks, it's good to see you again.
Kevin, good to have you and me here together. Thank you.
Yeah, so a lot of people assume that every workplace injury is going to automatically go to workers' comp. Why doesn't that system always apply to refinery and plant accidents?
The industrial scale of a refinery is much different than just a retail store per se. You have multiple contractors. You have the division of labor going on in front of everybody in every unit that's being worked on or maintained. So, I mean, there are occasions where an injury at a refinery is simply a workers' comp claim. That usually is just the nature of an accident itself, not necessarily any negligence involved. We talked about in previous episodes, we talked about head injuries and all that good stuff. Much of the time, industrial accidents are involve negligence, and that negligence then oftentimes involves third parties. So contractors and maintenance folks may have done something along the line within the system and within that unit that throws up a red flag. Maybe they crossed a lockout tagout, just ignored it. They energized the system they should have energized. I mean, it's a whole plethora of things that can go on out there. And that's why hiring someone like myself that is able to go out and has the experience and has done it over and over to go out and to look at all those different pieces and look at all those different contracts and actually figure out how those contractors and the premise owner are contracted together, who indemnifies, who is responsible for the acts of the other or the employees or the training or whatever. We don't know that, or most lawyers don't know that until they actually get the contracts. The good news is we've dealt with almost all of these contractors. I know we've dealt with all of the refineries. And so we have a pretty good idea of the lay of the land before we're walking in there. And but contracts get renewed every year. Contracts get renewed at every contract period. So what happens is we obviously have to go in, and first thing we do is we start reading contracts. Second thing we do is usually it's 1A and 1B. We have our experts lined up, and once we understand the contracts, once we understand the nature of the injuries and what that unit actually did, that's when we hire the experts, and the experts are there on the ground literally within 24 to 48 hours.
So when someone gets hurt, how do you tell whether they're covered by workers' comp or whether they have a different kind of legal claim?
Well, I mean, immediately you don't know. I mean, you really don't know. You understand that there's a big difference between somebody who works directly for the refinery and somebody that's working for a contractor over off the side that's been contracted to come in to perform maintenance work or to perform direct work. It depends on what they were contracted to come out there and do. So it really, honestly, it depends on the nature of your employment, and it depends on the nature of everybody that's out there surrounding you.
Okay. That makes sense. And obviously refineries, as you said, use a lot of contractors and subcontractors. Does that setup complicate who's responsible when someone's injured, or does it generally, once you start following things, you can kind of figure it out?
Well, I mean, essentially due to the industrial scale and the regulatory complexity of refineries, I mean, obviously there's with the volatility of those places, the safety issues are all over the place, and a refinery case is not like a typical car accident or a typical fender bender or whatever you may be involved in. From right off the bat, you're going to have OSHA, you're going to have the Chemical Safety Board, You're going to have the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. You're going to have them responding within a matter of days and less than weeks for sure. Um, Primarily because these facilities handle toxic carcinogenic substances, things that are flammable all over the place. It's a very dangerous situation out there.
Hmm. So for contractors who aren't protected by workers' comp, what options do they still have to recover medical costs or lost income?
Well, contractors generally are going to have workers' comp as well. I mean, every employee is going to have comp through their employer, generally speaking. Now, there are the voluntary non-subscribers, and those folks say, "Hey, we're going to self-insure ourselves. We're not going to be part of the comp scheme." That does happen, and we've run into that on a few occasions. But generally speaking, uh, comp is the baseline of care that these employees are going to get. These workers are going to get. So at the end of the day, my job is to go out and look for that third party, that third party negligence, that somebody created that situation or somebody did something wrong on that side of the unit that created this downflow of that resulted in catastrophe. So that's our job is to go out and locate that third party, and locating that third party, whether it's a maintenance company, and I mean it just depends. It can be the premise owner. It can be a multitude of other contractors. It just depends, and that is the point of us being able to get out there, because refineries as well. As soon as something happens at a refinery, yes, they do investigate it, but very quickly after this short investigation goes on, they clean up and get processes moving. So evidence disappears in that cleanup,
Yep.
and that's why getting us involved earlier is I always preach how important it is to have us out there and have us early and often. Um, but that generally, I would say about 25% of our cases we're out there super early, and those cases honestly run much smoother than the 75% that do not bring us out super early.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as far as insurance companies go, how do they handle these mixed situations, and what challenges does that create for the injured workers?
The companies at fault and their insurers, they're usually led by their insurers. The companies, I've had cases where they literally show up to the hospital, and they show up giving condolences, and in fatality cases they'll show up to the house. Those would be our wrongful death cases. In severe injury cases, they'll show up to the hospital, and they always show up with hat in hand, and they feel horrible for these poor folks and the poor family, and they inevitably they're there to minimize their liability or their exposure, their financial exposure to the situation. That's their job. That's what they're there for. Most workers and their families, especially caught up in that circumstance, whenever their immense grief is going on, and then immediately they're thinking about how they're going to afford to pay the bills, how are they going to take care of things at home, and so they're at a weak point. And then these companies and these company representatives will roll in with their insurance folks and their adjusters, and they will do one of two things. They will try to get some sort of recorded statement. They literally do it on in every single case. They will try to get some sort of recorded statement. And I always try to tell every client, please do not ever give a recorded statement or sign anything without your attorney being present. But it happens, and it's very common. It's very common in this space. So they usually descend upon knowing that the family hasn't had time to hire counsel or hasn't even thought about hiring counsel at that
Yeah.
point. They will move in, and they will attempt to do something that will mitigate or minimize the case, and that's just the unfortunate nature of refinery accident law.
Now, you've seen a lot of confusion about paperwork and company reporting after an accident. Is there anything a worker could do early on to avoid being boxed into the wrong type of claim?
Obviously communicating well with your coworkers, obviously taking notes and saving and being aware of your surroundings. It's always good to be aware. Um, but for a perfect example is a case I had out of Norco, Louisiana, at a Valero facility, and it was the first day on the job for my client, and he was about 6 stories up on a tank, and on the opposite side of the unit, there were actually some Valero workers were there, and they violated a lockout tagout, shot gas through a locked out unit, a locked out line, and so they energized it. Well, what they were unaware of was the escape hatch essentially was right in the face of my client, and the gas hits him, it knocks him out, and he ended up falling to his death about 6 stories.
Oh,
So
jeez.
that was the first day. So there really wasn't anything he could do other than be prepared within your own uh, employer, your own contractor, and then you definitely you definitely want to have your awareness and have a plan before you even go out there. So just like with anything, whether or not you're going to the grocery store, before you go to the grocery store, you should probably make a list. Well, at least the same type of preparation of going to the grocery store you should make before you go out to a refinery that could kill you.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's sad. What tends to make these refinery cases tougher than a standard on the job injury?
Well, it's the complexity, along with, as we discussed before, as long as with the chemical safety board, the different potential defendants. There's a whole host of potential defendants. The severity of the accidents that usually happen at refineries also increase the values of these cases. So these cases are not like a car wreck. These cases are oftentimes in the millions. And so it's just with the entire involvement of multiple parties, with all the contractors, subcontractors, equipment suppliers, that all complicates liability. And that's why you go hire an experienced refinery injury lawyer to be able to navigate your way around all those hurdles. And then at the end result is forcing them to pay you a lot of money for what they did to
Is it typically a stronger claim when they're not part of the workers' comp system?
you. It is. Well, workers' comp in the state of Texas literally bars you, cuts you out from any third party claims. So your case is going to be a third party claim or it's going to be a comp claim. And a
Mm-hmm.
comp claim is statutorily capped. So those are hard capped. Your actual third party lawsuit down at the courthouse, that's a whole different animal. And that's where I come in, and that's where we go and we do everything we can to hold them accountable and pop them.
Are there certain situations that are commonly workers' comp cases and others that are commonly not?
It just depends upon the nature of the unit you're working on within that refinery.
Okay.
Some units may have minimal maintenance. Some units may be essentially flow through units. And yes, you'll have operators and you'll have workers working within those units, but it's more of a monitoring type of job than it is in any twisting wrenches and moving parts. So it's a very different animal from unit to unit, and so it really just depends on the volatility of that unit and how many different contractors and subcontractors are actually coming in and out that creates that third party liability
Okay.
and kicks it out of the comp claim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Well, interesting stuff. It's good to have someone like you on the job because it could definitely get confusing. And that wraps up today's episode of the Refinery Injury Podcast with Brooks Harrison. If you've been hurt working in a refinery or plant and aren't sure whether you're covered by workers' comp, visit refineryinjury.com to get clear answers and learn how Brooks and his team can help. Please subscribe to our channel, leave us a review. We very much appreciate it. Share this episode with someone who can get some use out of it. We appreciate that as well. Brooks, I always appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.